The key to sustainable leadership lies in the ability to thrive in uncertainty, ambiguity, and change. Grand Heron International brings you the Coaching Assistance Program, giving your employees on-demand coaching to manage through a challenging situation and arrive at a solution. Visit grandheroninternational.ca/podcast to learn more.
This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Keep Leading Podcast, a podcast dedicated to promoting leadership development and sharing leadership insights. Here's your host, the Leadership Accelerator, Eddie Turner.
All right, I am officially live, and looks like I've already got a comment in here from Lauren Sanders. Lauren Sanders says, congratulations, happy anniversary, and many more to come. Thank you for throwing that in there even before we get started, Lauren. I appreciate that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I want you to do what Lauren's doing. Go ahead and drop a comment into the chat box, if you will. Give me a question. Tell me your reaction to the episodes, and I'll involve you in this live broadcast as much as possible. I'd like to officially start off by saying hello and welcome to Keep Leading Live, the live version of the Keep Leading podcast. Today, we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and it's not Monday. My normal day is Monday, but today is Friday, April 24, 2020. On this date, last year, 2019, the Keep Leading podcast went live. So the Keep Leading podcast is 1 year old today. I am very excited about the journey that the Keep Leading podcast has taken, and I am thrilled to be able to share this with you today. So I'm happy that you've joined me to look back on the year that was. As the Keep Leading podcast is dedicated to leadership development and insights, the Keep Leading live stream is also dedicated to leadership development and insights. So if you love leadership, if you want to be a better leader, if you're interested in new insights, this is the podcast for you. We believe that it's just a one-time thing that we do. It's not a level we achieve. Leadership is something that we must always be in perpetual pursuit of and always trying to improve. That's the fundamental premise I started this show on a year ago. I initially started the show thinking, wow, I've been blessed to meet some incredible people and to call so many intellectually astute and accomplished people my friends. But I felt that many of my other friends didn't get the chance to know these people. And so I wanted to share my friends, share my network with the world. And the Keep Leading podcast has allowed me to do just that. But so much more has happened. My friend Dory Clark says that while it seems like everybody has a podcast and the number continues to grow, she says that the reality is the average podcast lasts 6 months or 12 episodes before it goes away. David Messner has a blog, and on his blog, he gave 3 stats I thought were also very interesting. David said that 12% of podcasts have only published a single episode. 6% haven't made it past 2 episodes. Half of all podcasts have 14 or fewer, very similar to the stat Dory shared. Well, the good news is the Keep Leading podcast has gone beyond those statistics. The Keep Leading podcast, as of today, this morning, we released episode 59, and overall, it's episode 60. 59 of other people. Episode number 1 was my introduction. So 59 episodes, 60 in total of the Keep Leading podcast for 1 year. And we're not slowing down. We're going to keep going as we keep leading. In fact, I started this live stream. My goal was not to do a live stream. Quite frankly, now that I think about it, my goal wasn't to do a podcast either. But the circumstances led to me saying, this is something I need to do. And when I think about it, my good friend Joel Block also, I got to give Joel credit because Joel kind of pushed me into it. It was kind of a conversation we had. And I look back and I said, that was the thing to do. So likewise with the Keep Leading Live program, this was not something I planned to do. The Keep Leading Live program is something that started because I wanted to get quick access out to Dr. Julie Rosenberg. So if you had a chance to see the episode with Dr. Julie Rosenberg, my first attempt failed because I was using a different platform and I was trying to get it done fast. And so I said, let me recalibrate, take my time. Second episode was the amazing Alyssa Cohn. And that was a great episode. And also we had Ron Carucci just this week. So we're going to keep going. But it was something I wanted to do because Dr. Rosenberg is just phenomenal. And she was talking about how we can make it through the COVID-19 crisis and how we can have self-care as leaders. And that led to going ahead and doing the live show. And so I'm going to keep them going as long as possible. We're now in 70 countries with the Keep Leading podcast, and we are in every state in the U.S., except 2. 14 directories around the globe. You can access the Keep Leading podcast, and you can access it also, of course, on my website, keepleadingpodcast.com and keepleadinglive.com if you want to watch the video of the live stream. And so there are some very special people that make this happen. And I want to take time right now to acknowledge those individuals. I want to start with the folks behind the scenes, my production team that really work hard to make this happen. David Wolf and his incredible team, Sean, Erica, and Parvez, Rajat, and Tiffany. Several folks are involved in the workflow that produces this episode. Jeff Hazlett, Mitch, Greg, and the rest of the wonderful folks over at the C-Suite Network and the C-Suite Radio. My partnership with them has been phenomenal, and I owe so much to that team. We've had amazing sponsors throughout the year on the Keep Leading podcast. I want to thank each and every one of my sponsors. It's a very long list that appears on the Keep Leading podcast page, but 2 stand out in particular. Number 1, Grand Heron International, Mariela De Savita, her team, her company, they've been tremendous supporters of the Keep Leading podcast, as well as On Deck Capital. Thank you for your continued support. But we've had Chase, Microsoft, Lexus, NBC, so many others who bought even just one ad through the year. I appreciate it. And your support is what makes this possible. And I cannot forget my amazing wife, Ashley Turner. Because of her support, I am able to accomplish everything I accomplish. And so my wife, I appreciate Ashley. Some amazing people have appeared on the Keep Leading podcast. Some of those amazing people, Phil Jones, Simon Bailey, Whitney Johnson, Hobbin Germer, Sally Hagelson, Dr. Stephen Stein, all the way going up to Marshall Goldsmith. It's an incredible list of 60 of the world's top coaches, thought leaders, authors, speakers, CEOs. I have to be honest, some individuals who I extended an invitation to, I didn't think they would say yes, but they did. And I am super happy they did because the amount of content, the wisdom that they have shared has proven to be absolutely invaluable. And I think for me, that's the part of running a podcast I did not realize would happen. I listen to each episode probably at least 10 times before it airs as I'm going through and checking and going back and forth to the engineering team to make sure things are the way they should be. And so the content is still playing in my ears, playing in my head. And so it has really helped me to think differently about some things. In fact, I'll share some of those transitions that have happened in my life in just a moment. We've covered topics from leadership in the law, emerging leaders, curiosity as a leader, being a hero leader, customer service, accessibility, diversity and inclusion, women in leadership, coaching the brain, emotional intelligence, agile leadership, Latina leadership, negotiation for leaders, entrepreneurship, disruption, leadership grace, cross-sector leadership, agile and facilitative leadership. Just incredible coverage on the topic of leadership. And there's so much more to still uncover. And so we will keep the coverage going throughout the year. I want to say welcome to those who have joined. Please feel free to say hello. Let me know where you're joining from. I'd love to acknowledge you and your support. And put in any questions that you have into the chat as well. And if you've been a listener, or if this is just your first time, tell me that as well. And if you have a favorite episode, I'd love to know about it. It's always still an experiment when you're doing something new. So you never know what you're going to get or who will come. But we do it anyway and love doing it. So let me tell you about some of the folks who've made an impact on me. I wish I could go through all 60 episodes, but I just want to highlight a couple of these episodes in the time we have, because I'm going to do this for about 25 or 30 minutes for today. Number one, I'm going to start with, because of the time we're living in, because we're amid the COVID crisis, I'm going to talk about Melissa Agnes. And I say all my guests are amazing, and Melissa's no less amazing. She's phenomenal. And with her episode, it was Crisis Ready. I invited Melissa on the show because I thought she just was a phenomenal woman, extremely intelligent, and I was impressed with her. But the more I got to know her, and then we had our episode, I became even more impressed. Her book is required reading at universities around the globe, including Harvard. And a year later, her content, her concepts, what she teaches and what she outlines in her book obviously couldn't be more apropos than they are now. So I start off with Crisis Ready. I said to Melissa in that episode, I did not think crisis readiness was a leadership skill. After listening to her, I said, I believe that it is now. I'm adding that to the portfolio of skills I think every leader needs to have. It's not just something that we leave to the human resources department or the legal department to worry about how we manage a crisis, or the comms team, communications team. And her response was, I'm glad you feel that way, because it is. Leaders must be concerned with how to manage crises, how to manage them properly, right? It's probably a better way of saying it. So Crisis Readiness, Melissa Agnes. If you have not had a chance to listen to that episode, I strongly encourage you to do so. That was episode 9 of the Keep Leading podcast. In fact, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to put into the chat a link. This link is to the episodes. This is a playlist to my 60-second previews. That's actually something else I should probably talk about. Link to 60-second previews. This is a YouTube link, and I misspelled previews, so spelling doesn't count on this episode right now. By the way, I should say another thing that we're pretty proud of with the Keep Leading podcast is it's something that's pretty hard to do. We spent 8 weeks on Apple's new and noteworthy lists. That was quite an accomplishment, and really proud, really excited about that. So it looks like Jordan Thomas has come in to the show. Jordan, welcome. Jordan Michael Thomas has been a phenomenal supporter, a very enthusiastic supporter of the Keep Leading podcast. Thank you, Jordan Michael Thomas. I appreciate you. And I believe Jordan is in California. So thank you for being one of my West Coast listeners. Thank you. And thank you for chiming in on the live broadcast as well. And there is Yvonne. Yvonne, and she is a fellow Texan. Hello, Yvonne. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for telling me that you're here for Keep Leading Live. It's exciting to have you with me. Thank you, Yvonne. So yes, I was saying that really excited to be on Apple's new and noteworthy list. So I shared the one episode there that I'm excited about. Let me tell you about another episode that really had me excited. I was excited to get General Tom Kolditz on, episode 5 of the Keep Leading podcast. And Tom Kolitz runs the Door Institute for New Leaders at Rice University. They are doing phenomenal work in leadership development of young people. It's the largest leader development enterprise in all of Texas, and it has now become the template that other universities around the world are copying. It is the first of its kind, made possible by Ann and John Doerr. They made a $50 million endowment, and they said, turn every young person at Rice University into a leader. And that's what Tom Kolitz and his team have done, a remarkable job. And he took out time to have an interview with me and share the great work that they're doing. So check out episode 5 if you've missed that episode. And thank you, Tom, for being a guest. And I cannot forget my initial people who opened it, got it started. Lou Diamond, Jeff Hazlett, and the amazing Laura Gassner-Otti. I can't forget to say thank you to those folks, those 3 episodes. In fact, if you look at the list, Apple shows the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in terms of a posting. But we officially went live on Friday, April the 24th. So that's what I use as the anniversary date. And that's because you have to have 3 episodes in the queue before Apple lets you go live. And I thought that perhaps I should save those heavy hitters for later on after I produce maybe 50 episodes. But then I said, no, I'm going to start with the best, start with the top. So Lou Diamond, who has a phenomenal podcast, Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Jeff Hazlett, everything about Jeff Hazlett is amazing, is larger than life. All Business, his podcast, of course, he's the CEO of the C-Suite Network. And Laura Gassner-Otti, her book, the week that I interviewed her, was out doing Michelle Obama's Becoming book. I interviewed her, and she thought it was an April Fool's joke. And I was dead serious when I told her that. So she didn't know that. So she had the pleasure of finding out on the show. So special thank you to those amazing leaders who helped me launch this show by being willing to go first. And that's not always an easy thing. So I like to think I've gotten better since those 3 interviews, but only you all, the listeners, can be the judge. And we have Solomon joining us. Solomon, not sure where you're from, but thank you for saying happy anniversary, and thank you for tuning in to Keep Leading Live, the special anniversary episode. Thank you, Solomon. And we'll have more right after this.
Hey, C-Suite Radio listener. Greg Greenberg, General Manager of C-Suite Radio here. If you're enjoying this great show, then you're obviously aware of the power and explosive growth of podcasting. That said, you may not know the amazing reach and ease of podcast advertising. Here at the C-Suite Radio Network, we have over 150 podcasts reaching millions of listeners each month, and all with affordable advertising slots ready to promote you and your business. We'll even help create and record your ad at no extra charge. From business to lifestyle to entertainment, we have shows to target your audience. We even have the technology to geo-target ads by state. So why not speak directly to your customers right where they live and on the podcast they love? Reach out to C-Suite by emailing me at greg.greenberg@csuitenetwork.com. Again, that is gregg.greenberg@c-suitenetwork.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Eddie Turner, LLC. Organizations who need to accelerate the development of their leaders call Eddie Turner the Leadership Accelerator. Eddie works with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact. Call Eddie Turner to help your leaders one-on-one as their coach, or to inspire them as a group through the power of facilitation or a keynote address. Visit EddieTurnerLLC.com to learn more.
This is Patricia Fripp, the presentation skills expert. And you're listening to the Keep Leading podcast with my friend, Eddie Turner.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. If you've seen the movie Sully, you'll know about another guest who I was pretty excited about. You've seen the story about Dave Sanderson. He was the last passenger off of the Miracle on the Hudson flight. And when I listened to that episode, I still get chills, literally, every time I listen to it. Dave's recounting of what it was like to be on that flight and what it did to him as a person, and how all the life lessons he experienced came rushing back. It's a riveting episode. Listen to that episode again. I think that was episode number 11, Dave Sanderson. Moments Matter is the title of that episode because that's the title of his book. But also he says he realized in that moment that moments matter. Tremendous episode that allows us all to take stock of our life, and as only you can do when your life flashes before you, when you think it's all about to end, literally. Thoroughly enjoyed that episode. Haben Girma. I have to talk about Haben Girma. Haben Girma is the deafblind woman who conquered Harvard Law. My best friend, Carl Winchester, was sitting in the audience at his corporation, major corporation, and he said, Eddie, I just listened to one of the most amazing women I've ever heard. And in fact, let me rephrase that. He said, I'm listening to one of the most amazing women I've ever heard. And I said, well, who is this? I must know. So he sends me the list, sends me a name. And so I look at it and I went, wow, I remember seeing her image. I didn't know her name, but I remember seeing her image with President Obama. And as a result, I reached out to Haben. And Haben was very gracious and said yes to me. And then I had to figure out, wow, how am I going to do this episode? And she taught me a lot. I thought that I was aware of certain things. I realized I was not. Haben Girma said to me, Eddie, I can't access your show, is how she put it, right? She's deaf, she can't hear, and she's blind, she can't see. She cannot access the show. And Haben Girma is the reason I had to go back and do all the episodes before hers. Hers was episode 14. So starting with episode 14, I went back and I made sure that every episode since has a transcription attached. Haben helped me to appreciate what I didn't know. I didn't know I needed to have a transcription. I didn't know, even when we post online, that we should take advantage of social media of putting that alternative text. There's a field always when we post images. That's where folks with disabilities, and they are the largest minority in the world. Haben Girma taught me that. I did not know that. And so when we do the right thing, the human thing, turns out it's a good business and a profitable thing to do as well. And so I learned a lot in that episode. And you talk about impressive. You talk about someone who makes you realize you can't make excuses. Haben Girma did that for me. Jordan Michael Thomas says that that Dave, let me show this comment. Thank you. Jordan says that the Dave Sanderson episode is one of his favorite, or is his favorite episode. All right, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure Dave will be happy to hear that. So I'm very grateful to Haben Girma because of what she taught me, and she has had a direct impact on this show. And many people talk about or share with me at times how they appreciate the transcription. And even I've had to reference back sometimes to those transcripts. And I make sure everything I do digitally has that now. Another person, in fact, I like to dedicate this episode to the memory of John Perry. If you've seen the movie Hidden Figures, you know about the contribution that three amazing African-American women made to the United States efforts for space exploration at NASA. I did not know about John Perry. And when I met John, I was impressed with him. And that's why I invited him on the show. And he talks about the story of what he went through at NASA. He talked about what he had to accomplish and what he endured as a man of color during the time that he lived. And it was a show that took me back, and it affected me in a deeply personal way because he made me go back and relive stories that my mother and father and my grandparents have told me. And so much so that I would often pre-record my intros for the episodes. I stopped doing that after that episode because I had to go back and re-record it because that's how much John had impacted me. And what I originally was going to interview him for, I asked him one question and he sent me in a completely different direction. And sometimes I usually pull back, but something said, go with it. And I went with him. And what unfolded was just a thing of beauty. And absolutely an episode, one of my favorites. John, that was his first episode podcast he'd ever listened to, the first podcast he'd ever been on. And he was 86 years old. And 6 weeks later, that episode, after we recorded it, it aired. and he died about 2 months later. So really proud to have captured the work and the legacy of John Perry in that episode. He truly is a special, not only a hidden figure, but a special figure. And that episode really impacted me, and it's one that I'm proud to have. Sally Helgesen, How Women Rise. She's the co-author of that book. She's the lead author, I should say. And Marshall Goldsmith, the world's number one leadership thinker, is her co-author. And her work there about how women rise, women's leadership, is something I refer to often. And my coaching clients will know that because my female clients get a copy of that if they want one at the end of our coaching sessions, because I think it's just that pivotal, so important to the career of women everywhere. So Sally Helgesen, How Women Rise. In fact, I have a bunch of little notes I scribbled really quick here. She said something in one of the 60-second recordings that I make. If you go to the link I have there on YouTube or on every episode on the keepleadingpodcast.com website, with every episode, there's a 60-minute clip that summarizes it. Here's one thing she said that I highlighted. She said, doing your work is only half the job. You must also market what you do. Connections and visibility are just as critical to your success. And I thought that was so powerful because it's so true. And so that's one of the statements that she made that I've highlighted, and I think that everyone needs to give heed to. But How Women Rise, episode number 26, Sally Helgesen. Beata Kerr, Women in Wealth, episode number 22. I skipped that one. Another powerful episode. Beata Kerr talked about, she's the national leader of private wealth management for Bernstein Wealth Management. She's another fascinating individual with deep expertise about finances. And so that episode was dedicated to women and those that love them, I say, right? Which means all of us. So specifically, financial challenges that women have that they need to be thinking about. And she talks about this concept of building your dream team. And there were several other things that she talked about that I think every woman should go listen to, that episode. And men too, but this was specifically for women because there are some unique challenges that come up in the career of women and how they save and how money affects them. I use as a coach the emotional intelligence instrument by Multi-Health Systems, MHS. So I was extremely excited when the CEO and founder, well, he's the founder, no longer the CEO, but the chair of Multi-Health Systems, Dr. Stephen Stein, when he said yes to me. That was exciting for me because I use his work all the time. And to be able to get his feedback was phenomenal, to ask him questions. I read his book and it's like a Bible for me in my work. But to ask him directly and hear from him, that was really, really exciting. Akeisha Daniels, thank you for joining. Akeisha says, hi, hello to you as well. So good to have you here in the live edition of the Keep Leading podcast. Thank you for listening and thank you for being here, Akeisha. Someone else I'd like to highlight is Simon T. Bailey. Simon T. Bailey is amazing. Simon T. Bailey, before I go to Simon T. Bailey, Lou Diamond has just joined. Lou Diamond, I just talked about you. I don't know if I talked you up or if you are chiming in because you heard what I said about you. You were guest number one. I told everybody about you, and a huge reason as to why I was able to come out of the gate strong. I listened to almost everything you said. Lou Diamond, the man. I appreciate you very much, sir. Truly a good guy all the way around. So thank you. Peace back at you. There we go. So Simon T. Bailey. Now, Simon is NSA royalty, NSA, National Speakers Association, just one of our phenomenal speakers, a trailblazer. I mean, sets the bar really, really high. Simon T. Bailey, I had him on and we talked about Be the Spark, and that was episode 19. And he made the point of how important it is to take small actions. And he talked about psychological leadership as employees. And he said paychecks are given to people who show up. Opportunities are given to people who go above and beyond. And so he talked about ways that people can be the spark. That's his tagline. And he every week recognizes somebody who's been the spark in someone else's life, someone who did something just a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit above and beyond. And certainly those little acts of kindness, of being a spark for someone else, they go a long way. And my, could we use more of that in our world? So Simon not only talks about that, he's written a book about it, but he also then goes out and identifies these people and promotes them on his social media feed every week. So you want to see some great examples of folks just doing good in the world? Follow Simon T. Bailey. In fact, follow all my guests if you would, please. And if you're tuning in for the first time and you're not already following me, please feel free to do so on social media. If you're here for, let us know you're here. But in the chat, please go ahead and drop a note and say hello. Tell me where you're from. If you listen, tell me which episode you liked. And Lou Diamond says, keep thriving loud. We will do that, Lou. Thank you. And Charles Fred. Charles Fred is the CEO, or the chairman of the board, I should say, of the Association for Talent Development, ATD. And he wrote a book called The 24-Hour Rule. For the 24-Hour Rule, he said something that I think is also important during this time. He said that the pause is extremely important in our life. And he said pause is not about delay. It's about discipline. Sometimes we need to resist the impulse to be impulsive. Stop, take that deep breath, count to 10, wait an hour, 24 hours, 48 hours. Do that. And by pausing, we can be better leaders. And he gives some of the research that he had from operating rooms, pilots, and some of those aspects of where pausing has been very powerful. Thank you again, Keisha. Keisha's chiming in from East Chicago, Indiana, my hometown. It's good to get somebody from the hometown on. So thank you, Keisha. And let's see, who else have I missed? Just a couple people I wrote down, want to highlight. Marsha Reynolds, Dorothy Seminovich, my coaches who helped me in the ICF world get my training up very high. Because they taught me. I learned. I've said if I want to be the best coach, I had to learn from the best, and they are two of the best, two of the top coaches in the International Coach Federation, who took me under their wing and have really worked with me. So I want to thank them for their training, but also for being a guest. So check out their episodes on the show as well. Marshall Goldsmith allowed me to become one of his 100 coaches, and now the number's above 100, but the organization is still called 100 Coaches. And I'm excited to be a part. And he came on the show and we had a great conversation. Anytime you can hear Marshall Goldsmith, it is a privilege. And I get a chance to hear him every day now. And we're in meetings every day. And I'm learning a lot from him and my fellow members of the MG100 family. And Marshall was kind enough to give me a testimonial, a little bit of an endorsement, I should say, not a testimonial, an endorsement on the episode as we were closing out. So I was not expecting that, but certainly I will take it. So that's just a brief summary, a quick rundown of some of the amazing people. Again, there's been 60 guests. I can't get to everybody, but everybody has been amazing. Everybody's left an impact on me, and I am super grateful to everyone. Again, I want to say a special thank you as I wrap up this episode to my production team, everybody in my workflow, David Wolf, Sean, Erica, Parvez, Rajat, Tiffany, and Jeff Hazlett, Mitchell, Greg, the folks at C-Suite Radio and C-Suite Network, my sponsors, Grant Heron International, Mariela De Sevilla, On Deck Capital, and all the other sponsors we have posted on the Keep Leading podcast page. So that does it for this episode, everyone. Thank you to everybody who tuned in live. I appreciate you all for tuning in live. Solomon is saying this is his first time. He is from Ghana. Thank you for tuning in from Ghana. That's good to know. Thank you. Carlton Brown is jumping in as we wrap up here. Thanks for tuning in. Carlton Brown, it's been years. Carlton Brown is from Northwest Indiana, another person from the hometown. So very happy to have that. It's been an exciting 1 year, and I can't tell you how grateful I am and how wonderful it is to be a part of the podcast community. And I'm so excited to have all of you who have tuned in to be with me live. So thanks again to everybody who supports the Keep Leading podcast, both the audio version. Some of you, when I get the stats, I see are listening into it on your Apple Watch. Amazing. So when you're working out or taking walks, I love that. So folks are listening from everywhere. Carlton says yes. So I guess he's one of them. Thank you. I always wonder who those folks are. So thank you. Now I know. Thank you, Carlton. So everybody who's tuning in, audio-wise, the Keep Leading live program, I really appreciate you all. Thank you again. And remember, leadership is not about a title or a position. Leadership is action. Leadership is an activity. It is not a garment that we put on and take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. So whatever you're doing, always keep leading.
Thank you for listening to your host, Eddie Turner, on the Keep Leading podcast. Please remember to subscribe to the Keep Leading podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen. For more information about Eddie Turner's work, please visit eddieturnerllc.com.
Thank you for listening to C-Suite Radio, turning the volume up on business.